Tonight is the 18th of August, and we come to Sutta number 75, Magandiya Sutta, to Magandiya. This is a very important sutta, quite a well-known sutta. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living in the Kuru country at a town of the Kurus named Kammasadhamma on a spread of grass in the fire chamber of a Brahmin belonging to the Bharadvaja clan. Then when it was morning, the Blessed One dressed and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Kammasadhamma for alms. When he had wandered for alms in Kammasadhamma and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he went to a certain grove for the day's abiding. Having entered the grove, he sat down at the root of a tree for the day's abiding. Then the wanderer Magandiya, while walking and wandering for exercise, went to the fire chamber of the Brahmin belonging to the Bharadvaja clan. There he saw a spread of grass prepared and asked the Brahmin, "For whom has this spread of grass been prepared in Master Bharadvaja's fire chamber? It seems like a recluse's bed." "Master Magandiya, there is a recluse Gotama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from a Sakyan clan. Now a good report of Master Gotama has been spread to this effect. That Blessed One is Arahant, Sammasambuddha, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. This bed has been prepared for that Master Gotama. Indeed, Master Bharadvaja, it is an ill sight we see when we see the bed of that destroyer of beings, Master Gotama. Be careful what you say, Magandiya. Be careful what you say. Many learned nobles, learned Brahmins, learned householders and learned recluses have full confidence in Master Gotama and have been disciplined by him in the noble true way, in the Dhamma that is wholesome. Master Bharadvaja, even if we saw that Master Gotama face to face, we would tell him to his face, the recluse Gotama is a destroyer of beings. Why is that? Because that is recorded in our scriptures. If Master Magandiya has no objection, may I tell this to Master Gotama? Let Master Bharadvaja be at ease. Tell him just what I have said. Stop here for a moment. So here, this Magandiya doesn't seem to like the Buddha. Says the Buddha is a destroyer of beings. Buna Huno, that's the Pali. Literally it means destroyer of beings. But this translation, destroyer of growth, it follows a commentary. It is an interpretation. It is not exactly the Pali word. Afterwards, you'll see why he calls him a destroyer of beings. Meanwhile, with the divine ear or heavenly ear, which is purified and surpasses the human, the Blessed One heard this conversation between the Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan and the wanderer Magandiya. Then, when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation, went to the Brahmin's fire chamber and sat down on the spread of grass made ready. Then the Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side. The Blessed One asked him, "Bharadvaja, did you have any conversation with the wanderer Magandiya about this spread of grass?" When this was said, the Brahmin, awestruck and with his hair standing on end, replied, "We wanted to tell Master Gotama about that very thing, but Master Gotama has anticipated us." But this discussion between the Blessed One and the Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan was left unfinished. For then the wanderer Magandiya, while walking and wandering for exercise, came to the Brahmin's fire chamber and went up to the Blessed One. He exchanged greetings with the Blessed One, and when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side. The Blessed One said to him, "Magandiya, the eye delights in forms, takes delight in forms, rejoices in forms. That has been tamed by the Tathagata, guarded, protected and restrained, and he teaches the Dhamma for its restraint. Was it with reference to this that you said the recluse Gotama is a destroyer of beings?" It was with reference to this, Master Gotama, that I said the recluse Gotama is a destroyer of beings. Why is that? Because that is recorded in our scriptures. Then the Buddha said, the ear delights in sounds. Similarly, the nose delights in odors, the tongue delights in flavors. The body delights in tangibles. The mind delights in mind objects, takes delight in mind objects, rejoices in mind objects. That has been tamed by the Tathagata, guarded, protected and restrained. And he teaches the Dhamma for its restraint. Was it with reference to this that you said the recluse Gautama is a destroyer of beings? It was with reference to this, Master Gautama, that I said the recluse Gautama is a destroyer of beings. Why is that? Because that is recorded in our scriptures. So here, this Magandiya, he says the Buddha is a destroyer of beings. Why? Because beings take delight in the six senses. And the Buddha teaches the opposite. So that's why he says the Buddha is a destroyer of beings. And also the Buddha leads beings out of samsara. Now, according to the commentary, they say that the Buddha is a destroyer of growth, and because they say that the six senses grows by experiencing all the sense objects. But here the Buddha is restricting the six sense bases from enjoying the six sense objects, so restricting their growth. But I think the more literal and correct translation is destroyer of beings. What do you think, Magandiya? Here someone may have formerly enjoyed himself with forms cognizable by the eye that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. On a later occasion, having understood as they actually are the origin, the disappearance, the gratification, danger and the escape in the case of forms, he might abandon craving for forms, remove fever for forms, and abide without thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. What would you say to him, Magandiya? Nothing, Master Gautama. What do you think, Magandiya? Here someone may have formerly enjoyed himself with sounds cognizable by the ear, with odors cognizable by the nose, with flavors cognizable by the tongue, with tangibles cognizable by the body that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. On a later occasion, having understood as they actually are, the origin, the disappearance, the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of the sense objects, he might abandon craving for the sense objects, remove fever for the sense objects, and abide without thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. What would you say to him, Magandiya? Nothing, Master Gautama. So here the Buddha is talking about somebody who has understood the danger in the enjoyment of the six sense objects. So he abandons craving for the six sense objects, and the mind becomes at peace. But Magandiya, he does not appreciate the abandoning of the enjoyment of the senses. That's why he has nothing to comment. Magandiya, formerly when I lived the home life, I enjoyed myself, provided and endowed with the five chords of sensual pleasure, with forms cognizable by the eye, with sounds cognizable by the ear, with odors cognizable by the nose, with flavors cognizable by the tongue, with tangibles cognizable by the body that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. I had 3 mansions, one for the rainy season, one for the winter, and one for the summer. I lived in the rains mansion for the 4 months of the rainy season, enjoying myself with musicians who were all female, and I did not go down to the lower palace. I'll stop here for a moment. So here when the Buddha was a lay person, his parents were very rich. So they built 3 mansions for him for the 3 seasons. In India they have 3 seasons, not 4 seasons. And so he had a different mansion for each season. So during the rainy season, he just stayed in the rains mansion for 4 months, surrounded by all female musicians, and probably enjoying sensual pleasures. That's why later it is mentioned that in the Vinaya books that when he renounced all these sensual thoughts came to plague him, disturb him. So he's not the only one in the Vinaya books and the suttas, we find Anuruddha and Yasa, his disciples, were also like him. They each had 3 mansions for the 3 seasons. On a later occasion, having understood as they actually are, the origin, the disappearance, gratification, danger, and escape in the case of sensual pleasures, I abandon craving for sensual pleasures. I remove fever for sensual pleasures, and I abide without thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. I see other beings who are not free from lust for sensual pleasures, being devoured by craving for sensual pleasures, burning with fever for sensual pleasures, indulging in sensual pleasures, and I do not envy them, nor do I delight therein. Why is that? Because there is Magandiya, a delight apart from sensual pleasures, apart from unwholesome states, which surpasses divine bliss. Since I take delight in that, I do not envy what is inferior, nor do I delight therein. So here, because Magandiya does not agree with the Buddha abandoning enjoyment of the senses. So here the Buddha is trying to tell him that there is another pleasure which surpasses human pleasure, human sensual pleasures, and human sensual pleasures are inferior to this meditative pleasure. It's because Magandiya does not know, that's why the Buddha mentioned. Suppose Magandiya, a householder or a householder's son, was rich with great wealth and property, and being provided and endowed with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, he might enjoy himself with forms cognizable by the eye, with sounds cognizable by the ear, with odors cognizable by the nose, with flavors cognizable by the tongue, with tangibles cognizable by the body that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. Having conducted himself well in body, speech and mind, on the dissolution of the body after death, he might reappear in a happy destination, in the heavenly world, in the retinue of the gods of the 33, and there, surrounded by a group of nymphs in the Nandana grove, he would enjoy himself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of divine sensual pleasure. Suppose he saw a householder or a householder's son enjoying himself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of human sensual pleasure. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that young god, surrounded by the group of nymphs in the Nandana grove, enjoying himself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of divine sensual pleasure, would he envy the householder or the householder's son for the 5 chords of human sensual pleasure, or would he return to human sensual pleasures? No, Master Gotama. Why not? Because heavenly sensual pleasures are more excellent and sublime than human sensual pleasures. So too, Magandiya, formerly when I lived the home life, I enjoyed myself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, with forms cognizable by the eye, with tangibles cognizable by the body that I wish for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. On a later occasion, having understood as they actually are, the gratification, danger, escape in the case of sensual pleasures, I abandon craving for sensual pleasures, I remove fever for sensual pleasures, and I abide without thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. I see other beings who are not free from lust for sensual pleasures, being devoured by craving for sensual pleasures, burning with fever for sensual pleasures, indulging in sensual pleasures, and I do not envy them, nor do I delight therein. Why is that? Because there is, Magandiya, a delight apart from sensual pleasures, apart from unwholesome states, which surpasses divine bliss. Since I take delight in that, I do not envy what is inferior, nor do I delight therein. Sorry for a moment. So here, the Buddha is trying to explain to Magandiya that the reason why he encouraged people to abandon craving for sensual pleasures, because there is a higher pleasure, and this higher pleasure even surpasses divine bliss, that means heavenly bliss, heavenly pleasures also cannot compare to this pleasure that the Buddha has experienced. Suppose, Magandiya, there was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings of his wounds with his nails, cauterizing his body with a burning charcoal pit. Then his friends and companions, this one I wouldn't say a burning charcoal pit, probably a burning charcoal. Then his friends and companions, his kinsmen and relatives, would bring a physician to treat him. The physician would make medicine for him, and by means of that medicine, the man would be cured of his leprosy and would become well and happy, independent, master of himself, able to go where he likes. Then he might see another leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings of his wounds with his nails, cauterizing his body with a burning charcoal. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that man envy that leper for his burning charcoal or his use of medicine? No, Master Gotama. Why is that? Because when there is sickness, medicine has to be made. And when there is no sickness, medicine does not have to be made. So too, Magandiya, formerly when I lived the home life, etc., etc., since I take delight in that, I do not envy what is inferior, nor do I delight therein. Now we come to this part now where the Buddha brings up the simile of the leper. This leper, he is sick, so his flesh is devoured by worms, bacteria and all that. And he's very itchy all over. So he has to scratch his body because he's so itchy. Uses his nails to scratch his body. And that is not enough to ease that itch. The itch goes right to the bones. So what he has to do is he has to bring a burning charcoal and burn the flesh wherever it is itchy. He just cannot stand it. He has to use the charcoal to burn it. Then only he can get some satisfaction. But this fellow, luckily, he's healed by the physician. Then when he sees another leper doing the same thing, the Buddha says, would he envy that leper? It's not possible that he will envy the leper. Now he's healthy, he's no more plagued by that itch. Suppose, Magandiya, there was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings of his wounds with his nails, cauterizing his body with a burning charcoal. Then his friends and companions, his kinsmen and relatives, brought a physician to treat him. The physician would make medicine for him, and by means of that medicine, the man would be cured of his leprosy and would become well and happy, independent, master of himself, able to go where he likes. Then two strong men would seize him by both arms and drag him towards a burning charcoal pit. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that man twist his body this way and that? Yes, Master Gotama. Why is that? Because that fire is indeed painful to touch, hot and scorching. What do you think, Magandiya? Is it only now that the fire is painful to touch, hot and scorching, or previously too was that fire painful to touch, hot and scorching? Master Gotama, that fire is now painful to touch, hot and scorching, and previously too, that fire was painful to touch, hot and scorching. For when that man was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings of his wounds with his nails, his faculties were impaired. Thus, though the fire was actually painful to touch, he mistakenly perceived it as pleasant. So too, Magandiya, in the past, sensual pleasures were painful to touch, hot and scorching. In the future, sensual pleasures will be painful to touch, hot and scorching. And now, at present, sensual pleasures are painful to touch, hot and scorching. But these beings who are not free from lust for sensual pleasures, who are devoured by craving for sensual pleasures, who burn with fever for sensual pleasures, have faculties that are impaired. Thus, though sensual pleasures are actually painful to touch, they acquire a mistaken perception of them as pleasant. I'll stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that sensual pleasures are actually painful, but when we don't see the Dhamma, when we don't understand, we think sensual pleasures are very pleasant, just like the leper, because he is sick, his limbs are devoured by these worms, and he is so itchy that he has to scratch and scratch until the blood comes out, and then the pus turns to pus, and that is not enough. He has to burn himself with the ember, the charcoal, to ease that itch. But when he is cured, if you want to burn him with the charcoal, he would not want, right? So the Buddha says, the fire is the same, but why, when he was sick, he wanted that burning charcoal to burn his flesh, but when he's well, he doesn't want. So it's because of his mistaken, mistakenly, his faculties were impaired, and he mistakenly perceived it as pleasant. Suppose Magandiya, there was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings of his wounds with his nails, cauterizing his body with a burning charcoal. The more he scratches the scabs and cauterizes his body, the fouler, more evil-smelling, and more infected the openings of his wounds would become. Yet he would find a certain measure of satisfaction and enjoyment in scratching the openings of his wounds. So too Magandiya, beings who are not free from lust for sensual pleasures, who are devoured by craving for sensual pleasures, who burn with fever for sensual pleasures, still indulge in sensual pleasures. The more such beings indulge in sensual pleasures, the more their craving for sensual pleasures increases, and the more they are burned by their fever for sensual pleasures. Yet they find a certain measure of satisfaction and enjoyment in dependence on the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. This is a very good simile. The Buddha says that this man, because the itch, this leper, itches right into the bones. Here is mentioned, he scratches the scabs of the openings of his wounds. You know, when our wounds start to heal, and there's a layer of flesh, and there's a layer of starts to heal, the scab forms, then it becomes itchy. I think you all know, isn't it? When you have an open wound. So he scratches himself with his nails. But the more he scratches, the worse it becomes, because more pus forms, and from the pus it becomes evil smelling, and more infected. His wounds become more infected. Yet he continues to do it, keep scratching and burning himself, because he gets a certain measure of satisfaction and enjoyment in easing that itch. So in the same way, the Buddha says, beings who are not free from lust for sensual pleasures, what we in Malay we call gatal, itchy. So we want to indulge in sensual pleasures, but the more we indulge in sensual pleasures, the more the craving for sensual pleasures increases, the fever for sensual pleasures increases. So the Buddha says sensual pleasures cannot be satisfied. There are certain things like sensual pleasures, liquor, sleep. The more we indulge in it, the more we want, can never be satisfied. So the Buddha explains this to educate Magandiya, to make him see that sensual desire is a sickness, because he was scolding the Buddha for telling people to abandon enjoyment of the senses. So here the Buddha is trying to educate him that actually indulging in sensual pleasures is a sickness. We have to ease our itch. What do you think, Magandiya? Have you ever seen or heard of a king or a king's minister enjoying himself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, who without abandoning craving for sensual pleasures, without removing fever for sensual pleasures, was able to abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace, or who is able or who will be able to so abide? No, Master Gautama. Good Magandiya, I too have never heard or seen of a king or a king's minister enjoying himself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure, who without abandoning craving for sensual pleasures, without removing fever for sensual pleasures, was able to abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace, or who is able or who will be able to so abide. On the contrary, Magandiya, those recluses or Brahmins who abided or abide or will abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace, all do so after having understood as they actually are the origin, disappearance, gratification, danger, and escape in the case of sensual pleasures. And it is after abandoning craving for sensual pleasures and removing fever for sensual pleasures that they abide or will abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says that there is no person without abandoning the enjoyment of sensual pleasures can abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. Free from thirst, because this tanha is a kind of thirst, translated as craving. If we crave for something, our mind cannot be peaceful. It's like we are sick, like a drug addict. We cannot get his drug. He just cannot sit still. His mind is not at peace. But if a person can abide free from thirst, then his mind is at peace, and then he's happy. He doesn't need anything. So a person with craving is a person who suffers. If you crave for something, you cannot satisfy that thirst, then you suffer, just like the drug addict. So the Buddha says, the spiritual path to abide free from thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace, we have to let go of sensual pleasures. This later books like the Mahayana, Vimalakirti Sutra, they say something that is contradictory. They say this layman Vimalakirti, without abandoning sensual pleasures, he can socialize, be an ordinary layman, and yet he can achieve a higher state than the Arahants, like Sariputta. This is just not possible. Then at that point, the Blessed One uttered this exclamation: the greatest of all gains is health. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. The Eightfold Path is the best of paths, for it leads safely to the deathless. When this was said, the wanderer Magandiya said to the Blessed One, "It is wonderful, Master Gotama. It is marvelous how well that has been expressed by Master Gotama. The greatest of all gains is health. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. We too have heard this said by earlier wanderers in the tradition of the teachers, and it agrees, Master Gotama. But Magandiya, when you heard that said by earlier wanderers in the tradition of the teachers, what is that health? What is that Nibbana?" When this was said, the wanderer Magandiya rubbed his limbs with his hands and said, "This is that health, Master Gotama. This is that Nibbana. For I am now healthy and happy, and nothing afflicts me." And the Buddha said, so stop here for a moment. So when the Buddha asked him, what is that health that you say your teachers mention, and what is that Nibbana? So here he's talking about his bodily health. And for him, Nibbana means that nothing afflicts him now. He is healthy and happy. He thinks that is Nibbana. And the Buddha said, "Magandiya, suppose there was a man born blind who could not see dark and light forms, who could not see blue, yellow, red or pink forms, who could not see what was even and uneven, who could not see the stars or the sun and moon. He might hear a man with good eyesight saying, 'Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean,' and he would go in search of a white cloth. Then a man would cheat him with a dirty soiled garment thus, 'Good man, here is a white cloth for you, beautiful, spotless and clean,' and he would accept it and put it on, and being satisfied with it, he would utter words of satisfaction thus, 'Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean.' What do you think, Magandiya? When that man, born blind, accepted that dirty, soiled garment, put it on, and being satisfied with it, uttered words of satisfaction thus, 'Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean,' did he do so knowing and seeing, or out of faith in a man with good eyesight? Venerable sir, he would have done so unknowing and unseeing, out of faith in the man with good eyesight. So too, Magandiya, the wanderers of other sects are blind and visionless. They do not know health, they do not see Nibbana, yet they utter this stanza thus, 'The greatest of all gains is health, Nibbana is the greatest bliss.' This stanza was uttered by the earlier Arahants, Sammasambuddhas, thus, The greatest of all gains is health. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. The Eightfold Path is the best of paths, for it leads safely to the deathless. Now it has gradually become current among ordinary people. And although this body, Magandiya, is a disease, a tumor, a dart, a calamity, and an affliction, referring to this body, you say, this is that health, Master Gotama, this is that Nibbana. You do not have that ardent vision, Magandiya, by means of which you might know health and see Nibbana. I stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha gives the simile of the blind man being cheated and told that that dirty cloth that he bought is a white, spotless, clean cloth. So the Buddha says, in the same way, you are blind. You have been cheated by your teachers, and all of you do not know what is health, what is Nibbana. Then Magandiya said, I have confidence in Master Gotama thus. Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I can come to know health and see Nibbana. And the Buddha said, Magandiya, suppose there was a man born blind who could not see dark and light forms, etc., or the sun and moon. Then his friends and companions, his kinsmen and relatives, would bring a physician to treat him. The physician would make a medicine for him. Yet by means of that medicine, the man's vision would not arise or be purified. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that doctor reap weariness and disappointment? Yes, Master Gotama. So too, Magandiya, if I were to teach you the Dhamma thus, this is that health, this is that Nibbana, you might not know health or see Nibbana, and that would be wearisome and troublesome for me. Stop here for a moment. So here, he's asking the Buddha to teach him, but he put it this way, I have confidence in Master Gotama, that Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dhamma. So now he's requesting the Buddha to teach him the Dhamma. So the Buddha said, I might teach you the Dhamma, but you might not see it. That would be troublesome for me. Second time he repeated, I have confidence in Master Gotama thus. Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I can come to know health and see Nibbana. Magandiya, suppose there was a man born blind who could not see dark and light forms, etc., or the sun and moon. He might hear a man with good eyesight saying, Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean. And he would go in search of a white cloth. Then a man would cheat him with a dirty, soiled garment thus, Good man, here is a white cloth for you, beautiful, spotless and clean. And he would accept it and put it on. Then his friends and companions, his kinsmen and relatives, would bring a physician to treat him. The physician would make medicine, emetics and purgatives, ointments and counter-ointments, and nasal treatment. And by means of that medicine, the man's vision would arise and be purified. Together with the arising of his vision, his desire and liking for that dirty, soiled garment would be abandoned. Then he might burn with indignation and enmity towards that man, and might think that he ought to be killed thus. Indeed, I have long been tricked, cheated and defrauded by this man with this dirty, soiled garment when he told me, Good man, here is a white cloth for you, beautiful, spotless and clean. So too, Magandiya, if I were to teach you the Dhamma thus, this is that health, this is that Nibbana, you might know health and see Nibbana. Together with the arising of your vision, your desire and lust for the five aggregates affected by clinging might be abandoned. Then perhaps you might think, Indeed, I have long been tricked, cheated and defrauded by this mind. For when clinging, I have been clinging just to material form. I have been clinging just to feeling. I have been clinging just to perception. I have been clinging just to volition. I have been clinging just to consciousness. With my clinging as condition, being comes to be. With being as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. So here the Buddha says, this blind man might be cheated. But one day when he is cured, then he realizes that he has been cheated for a long time by the man who sold him that dirty cloth. Then he gets so angry and might think, want to kill that man. So in the same way, the Buddha said, I might teach you the Dhamma and you might understand. And then when you have understood, then you will realize that you have been clinging for the five aggregates. And then you realize you have been cheated for a long time by this mind. The Buddha says our mind has been cheating us, playing tricks on us for a long time. We have not been able to see clearly. So we have been clinging to these five aggregates and take it to be I and mine. And because of our clinging to the five aggregates, we turn on the round of rebirths, experiencing birth, aging, dying, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, lifetime after lifetime. And the third time he pleaded with the Buddha. He said, I have confidence in Master Gotama thus. Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I might rise up from this seat cured of my blindness. And now he acknowledges that he is blind. Then Magandiya, associate with true men. When you associate with true men, you will hear the true Dhamma. When you hear the true Dhamma, you will practice in accordance with the true Dhamma. When you practice in accordance with the true Dhamma, you will know and see for yourself thus. These are diseases, tumors and darts. But here these diseases, tumors and darts cease without remainder. With the cessation of my clinging comes cessation of being. With the cessation of being, cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth, aging and dying, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. Stop here for a moment. So after this third time that he pleaded with the Buddha to teach him, then only the Buddha gave him this advice. Associate with Aryans. Then when you associate with Aryans, you will hear the Aryan Dhamma. And then if you practice the Aryan Dhamma, then you will know and see for yourself. This is the cause of your suffering. And you let go that clinging, then that being, that I am ceases. When that being ceases, then the birth, round of rebirth ceases. When this was said, the wanderer Magandiya said, Magnificent Master Gotama, Magnificent Master Gotama. Master Gotama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. I will receive the going forth under Master Gotama. I will receive the full ordination. And the Buddha said, Magandiya, one who formerly belonged to another sect and desires the going forth and the full ordination in this Dhamma Vinaya, lives on probation for 4 months. At the end of 4 months, if the monks are satisfied with him, they give him the going forth and the full ordination to the monk state. But I recognize individual differences in this matter. Humble Sir, if those who formerly belong to another sect and desire the going forth and full ordination in this Dhamma Vinaya, live on probation for 4 months, and if at the end of 4 months the monks being satisfied with them, give them the going forth and the full ordination to the monk state, then I will live on probation for 4 years. At the end of the 4 years, if the monks are satisfied with me, let them give me the going forth and the full ordination to the monk state. Then the wanderer Magandiya received the going forth under the Blessed One, and he received the full ordination. And soon, not long after his full ordination, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent and resolute, the Venerable Magandiya, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here and now entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Magandiya became one of the Arahants. That's the end of the sutta. So, since the Buddha asked him to associate with true men, then he realized the true men, the Aryans, are to be found among the Buddha and the Buddha's disciples. So he decided to go forth, ordained as a monk. And when the Buddha told him he has to go on probation for 4 months, he said he was willing to go on probation for 4 years if necessary. Unlike some people, if you tell them you have to go on probation for 4 months, they will bargain. Too long, how about 2 months, how about 1 month? So he became So you see, this sutta is an excellent sutta. The Buddha has made it very clear how sensual pleasures is actually a sickness. For worldly people who don't understand the Dhamma, we think sensual pleasures is great. what we want to look for in the world, but that actually is the source of suffering, that is the cause of the round of rebirths. So only when we understand the Dhamma, understand that this sensual desire can never be satisfied, and the more we indulge in it, the more sick we become, just like the leper or for example, the drug addict. The more drugs he takes, the more sick he becomes. So this is one of the classic suttas.